Hello, everyone, and welcome back to RHAP's coverage of Beast Games Season 2. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today to talk about Episode 8 of Beast Games in our book club of Beast Games. It's Stephen Fishbach, the author. How you doing?
Hey, nice to finally speak to just published authors. You know, Rob is a soon-to-be published author, but
Published, best-selling,
best-selling authors. Yeah,
kind of an elite club, and I can't believe we invited Rob,
I know it's sort of embarrassing.
Yeah.
But excited. I've been listening to the podcasts, obviously, and excited to now get to contribute my own take on Beast Games. This was a great episode. This was super fun. I loved it. But I have a question for you out of the gate. So you said last week, I think it was last week, maybe it was the previous week, cardinal sin of a reality TV episode, a non-elimination episode. This episode, a non-elimination episode. Where are you on that?
I mean, when I say cardinal sin of reality TV, that's, I think, generally what people feel like the audience will feel. I'm not as attached to somebody needs to leave every episode. Obviously, I watch Big Brother where like one person leaves per week after 3 episodes. So I'm personally kind of fine with it. I do think that these 2 episodes, they were all kind of building to one conclusion, and through that conclusion, there was still no eliminations. And so I personally liked it. I think there's a lot in here that was really interesting. I think the family visits did have meaning. It added to the story. I think that like the slow build of how much money was being taken is always really interesting to me. We get some really interesting like plays in terms of
a lot of different strategies here.
Yeah, and then it culminates in what appears to be some blackmail, which is very fun. So I think this worked. What I will say is I think maybe it took too long to get here. But last week we talked about how against that episode the audience was. I think this episode people are back on board, although they're still a little bit like, really? Still nobody's gone? Still nobody's eliminated? And I get that, but I do think that like after these 2 episodes, I'm now so much more invested in this top 10.
Yeah.
And that was one of the main things we talked about a couple of weeks ago, which was like, who even are these people? Now I know who these people are.
Well, having this big morally defining moment, and especially one that comes in the context of their lives outside of the show, where they're like, I'm doing this for my fiance, or I'm doing this for my family. And then like, it just like everyone's relationship to each other suddenly becomes much more fractious, where these people who are saying, oh yeah, we're together, we've been riding since day one. And I never really connected with that. I was like, okay, sure, you're together. Cause like I saw a scene of you guys saying you're together. Now those bonds are like really put to the test. And it's so cool as each person steps out of the coffin, like the way they wrestle with the news that Nick told them that, you know, he took the 250. They're like, because they all come out being like, we're all going to do the 100. I know Nick did the 100. Like he's the moral guy. And every one of them, you can see them just like August is the first person out. And he's just like, no, you didn't. Like, I don't believe you. He literally doesn't believe it until he gets to the box and sees the number on the screen.
I had this exact same thought. There were a lot of moments in this episode where they had some great close-ups of a person's face as they reacted to news or as they were telling news. And I feel like despite the fact that reality television often puts people in situations where drama is happening, I feel like I rarely get a chance to like properly study somebody's reaction to something. Because I mean, you know, and Stephen, you know this, it's usually like, all right, guys, can we do that take again? Can you be a little more
I know,
a little more energy.
It happened like once to me in my 2 seasons.
Fair enough. But maybe less on Survivor.
Yeah.
But like, you know, people, reality shows often want like a big, like, what? And it's very rarely like fun to really like study that kind of reaction. But watching every individual, as you said, Stephen, have this like, because they couldn't hide the shock and the betrayal that they felt in their face, but they were trying to most of the time. And so you got to see them being like, oh, that's fine. Yeah. Like it was so interesting to watch, and they all had slightly different responses to it. And I found it fascinating, not something you'd expect again to be able to dig into on a show called Beast Games.
How is Beast Games truly? How is Beast Games the one competition reality show left where like morality still factors into it? You know, like this is like on a show like Survivor or a show like Big Brother, that $1 million is getting taken in a heartbeat, right? The first person out of the box is like, that's all for me. Because those shows have now sort of adopted this sort of cutthroat mentality where it's a game. We're just playing this game. And somehow Beast Games is really still in this real moral paradigm that I love, that I find really compelling, that I miss from Survivor. And even going into the Reddit comment threads, people were like, oh my gosh, like, can you believe, was it Brett took so much, like what a villain, you know, like, or like, how could Nick have done this? He gave his word. Like, how is Beast Game still got this kind of moral component to it that a lot of other shows have shed?
I think it's the money. I think because at the end of the day, Big Brother is not offering $1 million to people. Big Brother is offering like $5,000 to people, and then they're like, "I'll give up my 5K to another player for some social credit in the game." And it's like, okay, sure, because it was $5,000. Like on Survivor, they're like, "You know what, Jeff? I'll give up my reward. They can have the stale pizza." You know, it's like nobody's really
Right.
that desperate for the stale pizza as much as you often want food. In the same way that like that stale pizza is not going to change your life,
Yeah.
and it's not going to change somebody else's life. And so, like you're kind of forced to examine this in a way that shows like Survivor and Big Brother don't force you to examine. You know, a lot of people when people at the end of Survivor talk about how much they need the money, or the jury asks them like, "What would you do with the money?" The audience is kind of like, "Wow, whatever," because like the entire context of the show to that point has been about the game, and now it's about finishing off the game. But this is a show where 100, 200 people can come in, and like 10 to 20 of them could change their lives with the amount of money they could get throughout the entire thing, not just the very end prize. And that matters. Like it's not just about winning, it's about coming away with life-changing money. And you're all hoping to do that. And so I think the formula changes for how you approach it. And I think that's probably more closely aligned with like how Survivor originally started, when it was like $1 million.
Right.
You know, inflation happens and $1 million isn't quite what it once was. And yeah, so I think that that, on top of the fact that of course it's like such a new format, and really tries hard to dig into these moments as well.
I think this might be my favorite reality show right now. I mean, like truly, like I think like because that's the stuff I love, is this sort of moral component, the emotional component, the human component against the structure of the game. And I just don't see like I'm seeing this in other places as much. It's also just interesting. Someone like Nick, you have a whole trajectory where
Mhm.
he's down $1 million. Like it, whether or not he was considering taking it is another question. But like, he does turn down $1 million. Then he has to like face his family, and
Mhm.
he sees like, oh, these are the people I'm really playing for. He has to confess to them that he's turned down $1 million. And then he's put into the exact same spot again. And like, again, like has to like, it's such a fascinating, just like psychological human dilemma. I wanted him to take the full amount. I was just like, if you're gonna take $1
That's what I was
over
saying.
$100,000, and I listened to you and Rob break it down, I thought you kind of laid it out. He should either take 250 or $1 million, and you nailed it. He took 250. But
Not for the reasons I wanted, though.
right, it was kind of like a hedge. It was like, well, it's not too much. It's a little, not all, but
Well, the idea for me is if you take 250, you then tell the next person you bring out, I took 250, let's all take the full million, the four of us.
right.
And share it in that way. But he didn't approach it like he was like, "Sorry, bro, I took 250."
Yeah. And it seemed like
You'll
for him, it
you'll
was
go up there, you'll see. You'll see.
you'll know what it's like. I feel like they put the screws to Nick a little bit more than they did to August.
Certainly.
And of course, a little different. This is a guy who's got a family, you know, versus like a young guy who, you know, what is money? I've got my whole life ahead of me. I'll make another million somewhere.
His wife has a lifetime supply of Starbucks at this point, I think. So
Exactly.
they're kind of sad.
That's worth $1 million, depending on the drinks you get. But yeah, like I really just wanted him to, like, if you're gonna be the villain anyway, you might as well just go all in and take
I
it
agree.
all. But I think that for him, there was really a moral calculus. It's like, I'm only a little bad if I take 250, but if I take the full million, you know, I wouldn't do that to them. It's like everyone's kind of like, and I always felt that way in Survivor too. Like, oh, I like lied and I swore a lie, but I didn't swear a lie on my family member. You know, like the kind of like way you sort of like find your own sort of little place of moral sanctity in a game of lying and deceit.
Yeah. So I really feel like Nick messed this up. I think that like if you were going to do a move like this, you should have taken the million back when you had that option, because nobody really blamed JT, because all the people that would have blamed him were eliminated.
Yeah.
And everybody else was happy they took it.
That's definitely worse as a human thing to do.
I get that, but it's like, you know, like you might as well, I think if you're going to make that transgression, you might as well just like completely decide to do it, because and I think it's interesting, again, it's it leads to these conversations, because it's almost as though by putting an actual price on it, you're admitting that you are making a moral decision, that you think you deserve this much money and you think that everyone else deserves the amount that you left over. Whereas I think there's an argument to be made that if you just take the full million, you're doing so because it's a game. And it's like, I might as well just maximize my odds. There's a good chance I can use this as a bribe in the next game. People are going to be mad at me anyway. Like, you're making a game calculation. Whereas when you take 250, thinking like, this is how much I deserve, it's almost as though you're making a moral calculation, which feels worse somehow.
That's interesting. Right. Like, I deserve more than you, rather than I'm just going to grab whatever's in front of me. That's really, that's very interesting. That's yeah. So last season when they did this, had they already had the family visit or did they do a family visit last season?
I'm sure they did, but I don't think it was as big and long of a family visit.
Because it really put so much stakes around this, and it really seemed to be something that resonated for all of the contestants. Like, you just met my kids and you're taking money out of their mouths.
Every single one of them felt like, after meeting my family, you would do this. But it also had the impact of like, well, I just had to talk to my family about how I turned down $1 million.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yes. It's such an interesting move. And he sort of has this like weird hedge again. Like, it's a kind of like, you know, where he's not going to tell everybody. He's just going to tell 6 people, but the other 3 are obviously going to find like immediately.
So this makes no sense. And the whole idea of this being anonymous also is a bit of a bust. And that hasn't affected them so far, because they've, in both times they've done this, they haven't split this money equally. So they haven't needed the anonymous factor to come into play. But like, the idea that it could be anonymous is not actually really the case, because there's 2 points of fact checking. There's the person who went before you, who left a certain amount, and there's the person that goes after you, who sees a certain amount. And so if you try to lie about the amount you saw and the amount you left, there's at least one person that's going to be able to contradict what you said. No, that's not true. When I got there, there was this much money, or when I left, there was this much money. And that means that at the very least, you are in conflict with one other person in terms of one of you is lying about how much you took.
Do you think it would be better if they list, like, as you get up, you're like, you see each person, like how much that they took, or would that be worse?
I mean, I think that like the illusion of anonymity, I think, is good, because it gives people the idea that they might be able to get away with it, like Nick clearly thought he could. But like, the thing with what Nick was doing too was that like, he was like, oh, I'm only going to tell my people. But by not telling the other people what you did, you are throwing your people under the bus. You're saying it wasn't me, it was them, which only further incentivizes them to rat you out, knowing that it was you.
Which they immediately do. Like, that is instantly out there, as expected.
And it's only, I feel like it's all the worse that he tried to act like, oh man, I don't know what everyone else did. When he pulled those people out.
But I like each person going up, and obviously, like, you know, and not knowing who's done what. I think that's kind of a fun choice, because like, then everyone is sort of figuring it out for
I agree.
themselves. If like you had like, oh, August just took 83,000, then Tyler would be pressured to take 83,000. Like, I kind of like that there was.
It's anonymous in the moment, but very easily fact checked
Yeah,
once it's all
afterwards.
over. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
so August takes 83,000 because that's like what's left, split 9 ways. Tyler kind of makes a feint that he says he's going to take all of it. I wanted him to do that. I was
Me
like,
too.
yes, go Tyler. Like, because
Yeah.
I saw those little boys. Like, I want them to have a nice nest egg.
Tyler, perhaps the smartest person in this entire challenge, because Tyler takes a full 100,000
and still gets the moral credit. Yeah.
Instead of, cutting down by, 10, 12, 15, whatever, how many thousand, almost 20,000 actually. He gets in like an extra 20,000, and all he needs to do is be like, oh, damn, guys, sorry, I didn't realize about I didn't even think about splitting 9 ways. That's on me. And they're all like, good job, Tyler. You didn't take 250. I was like, yeah, I did a good job, and I got an extra 20K.
But I feel like he kept on, even when he was like saying like, yeah, I also did what I said I was going to do. Everyone's like, man, I did the moral thing. I did the moral. Yeah, like, me too.
He didn't even need to
did
make the excuse. Yeah.
Yeah, he really was chiming in there quite a bit just to make it clear that even though he got more than almost anybody, he did, and he did take the moral thing, and we did see his his kids. Jack takes the 81,000 again. Like, when it's like some like young kid, I'm like, okay, like that's not that big a sacrifice for you. You don't have to like look your kids in the face and say, oh, sorry, we can't afford whatever today.
Right. Yes. And I thought Jack's reaction also to Nick was so good. Just the way that his face dropped. And then we get to Brett, who apparently is there like for hours as the sun comes up.
Yeah, that was crazy. I think that's funny that they just let him go. I feel like, different show, they're going to move him along a little bit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And he also makes the calculation. I'm going to take 250, essentially leaving 250 left for his buddy. Which is so funny also, like the way that people assume things. So like Nick kind of assumes, wait till you get up there, you're going to want to take more. And then most people don't. August gets up there and he's like, most people are going to want to split, divide by 9. And then Tyler comes up and he's like, I'm taking my 100. And then Brett comes up and he's like, I'm going to take 250. And then my guy will take, my friend will take the remaining 250 theoretically. But then what happens is his friend ends up getting the lowest amount of money.
Yeah.
Technically. When he splits it, 5 or 4 ways, however many people who are left, he only gets like 48,000. But Brett decides to take 250, which was an interesting number because it was the same number that Nick took, and Nick told him he took 250.
Yeah, I'm sure that cued it. It's like, well, people are taking 250, so I'm going to take 250. It's not my fault. I think he even says, I'm only doing this because like Nick has already tarnished this pure game, and now like I've got to get mine too. It's so interesting because like he comes out saying, if you took $1 more than you're supposed to, you're a villain. And then he kind of talks his way into taking this 250. I have a question. So I'm like very pro sob story generally. I wanted more context for what Brett is thinking about. Like, we just see him agonizing, but I want him being like, well, I've got my wife and, something about them. However, I have seen on the Beast Games subreddit, they do not want this. Like, they don't want the sob story. Where are you? Does Beast Game is this the appropriate amount of sob story? Should there be more context? Or
I'm generally anti sob story, in the sense that if it's not there in the game, like it's not going to be as effective as something that is there in the game. So when they bring the family in, and you're able to get those moments, that's, I think, an appropriate amount of like giving the context we need. When you need to like, be like, hey, here's Jeff, here's some footage of his kids at home, here's his whole story.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of worked for Jeff because he was the winner and because he had a very unique story. But a lot of people have similar stories, unfortunately. Like, hey, I struggled. Hey, we don't have money. Or hey, we have had tragedies, traumas. those are very compelling things, but like you're not really here to watch those stories. You're here to watch how those stories impact people who are making decisions in this game right now.
Right.
And so to go too deeply into that, I think in a moment might be reaching too far. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be like digging into that stuff and trying to like root around a little bit. But I think like a full fledged like package. So like for instance, in this spot, I think Brett talking out loud about like
That's what I wanted.
my kids, like, my, and I'm just making stuff up. My boy, like, I really want him to go to college or like, whatever it is, like him talking in that moment, as opposed to like cut to him in a room talking about his family with footage and like all that stuff. Like I want to see the in the moment stuff that's happening, that's going through his head.
That's what I want to, and I feel like Mr. Beast could nudge it even like and maybe he does, and we're just not saying it, but like what's going through your head now? Like what does this?
Some people are going to be better at expressing than others, probably. Yeah.
And sometimes Mr. Beast does do that. He says like, "What does this money represent to you?" or something. I just wanted that in this moment because Brett is one of the characters we know the least, and yet he's making one of the biggest decisions in this challenge. Just a little nudge, like what does this money mean to you? Maybe he feels bad. He's like he's like a billionaire. It's like what is this?
Yeah, just like what's stopping you from taking everything?
Right.
What are you thinking about right now?
Well, that's like, you're right. Like, what's the counter argument? Like, why not take it all? That's also really interesting. Like, that's just to like talk through it a little bit more. One thing I do really like about Beast Games though is that they will let it go to sunup. Like, there's always that sense with this show that like they're gonna let it go as far as it needs to go, and like they're not gonna like rein in the players. They're gonna push them.
They don't have like a factory format of just how to make these shows, which is one of the things, I think probably one of the reasons we are able to really appreciate this show is that we are such sort of connoisseurs of reality television. And so in a weird way, its unique qualities are intriguing to us who have seen so much of the same thing over and over and over, that when we see something unique, it's kind of like, ooh, totally. As opposed to somebody who has like, who has not, spent their life and or career talking about these shows, is like, well, I can pick and choose, and a lot of this stuff feels pretty new and fresh to me regardless. And why would I pick this flashy one if it doesn't appeal to me? But yeah, I think that there's such a unique approach to how they make this show, where they really go the extra mile and they really try to do something different. And I know, and I think that does appeal to the Beast Games audience. I think that like even the fact that this was a repeat of the previous season's thing, I think was like, they did this already. Like people always want to see something kind of fresh. And I don't know if necessarily agree that they should always change things up, but you get that sense from the audience that they love the unique qualities that it has.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's really interesting, because I love to see. I mean, I feel like it's like a mix of new things, but also some of like the classic moral dilemmas. Like to me, this is the heart of Beast Games. Same with like the buzzer one. Like, how much money are you willing to just like totally betray and ruin the lives of everybody around you? Just such an interesting dilemma. Corey, again, interestingly, takes the least amount, as you said. And then we get the Monica bribe, where she sells for $500,000. Was this the right choice?
I didn't think so.
Oh, interesting. I thought it was totally. Oh, I'm so curious to hear what you have to say.
So yeah, because I had this thought process, because I was like, okay, because I was thinking for Corey at this point, you got like about, or I guess it was for Brett, there was like 500K left.
Yeah,
I was like, 500K is about 10% of the prize money. You're one of 10 people. That's kind of, there's some value there, right?
Yeah.
And then Monica has a similar choice, 500K. She doesn't even need to bow out. She doesn't even necessarily tell anybody. But my thought process was, okay, actually, I think I'm turning this down, because with the coin, I think she is all but guaranteed to make top 6. There's a high chance that there's some kind of social strategy happening in the next challenge. That was what happened last time. There was a vote. Even if there isn't, she's very unlikely to be targeted. A lot of people are going to be mad at the people who took extra money, which isn't going to be her. She's going to be looked at as the person they should have picked. And she has so she's basically guaranteed to make it to the top 6, where the coin comes into play. At which point, I am convinced that Mr. Jimmy Beast is going to offer her $1 million
Yeah,
to not
that's
flip the coin.
interesting. Yeah. But there's just that uncertainty element, right? Like, yes, like from our perspective, she's definitely making it through. But from her perspective, she just talked to her dad. He was like, you've got to get something out of this. She thinks I get $500,000. I get like the appearance of, I take nothing here. I get the appearance of being really awesome. And then because I think it would be really hard for her to take nothing if she didn't have that cash in hand with the $500,000. I think then she would probably feel a little foolish.
I mean, even if she then just takes, $48,000, I think like the goodwill she has is still plenty enough to get to top 6.
Right. I agree with you in theory, but like you just don't know. Like you have no idea what the next game is. Like it could be something where you spin a dial and suddenly you're out. And
normally I would say I'm in like normally I do think the equation if at around 500K, like I said, I think like that's value. Like I'm taking that probably. This is one of the few situations I think for me personally where I would have been like, I think I can roll the dice on this one. I really think I can double my money right now. And so I don't think I would have taken it there. Especially because like, even following August's logic later in the episode, like theoretically, MrBeast should be offering her another bribe even before the next challenge starts, and nobody's getting eliminated in this one. But she decides to do something way more interesting than what I would have done.
Well, because that's the other aspect of this is that it's in front of nobody and all the other bribes are in front of somebody. So there's so much more social pressure and like opprobrium if you take that, even $1 million bribe, because you're taking, $5 million away from somebody else. And I just think that, I mean, I kind of like that. She gets to keep all of her social credit. And in fact, you have people coming up to her saying, you need to take that bribe. You need to take that bribe now. So she has not just the social credit of having taken no money, but like people endorsing a decision she's already made.
True. However, there's kind of a reckoning coming, right? Okay, so she decides to take the bribe, not take any money, and then hide the fact that she sold the coin so that she gets all the credit of still having the coin, having not sold the coin, all the credit of having not taken any money. Like she's very selfless. And that goodwill should propel her forward easily into the top 6. But once she gets there, they're all going to look at her and say,
where's that coin?
Coin flip time, right?
Yeah,
and she's going to be like, oh man, I guess I misplaced it. So that's the danger, right? That she's, and the way that she has gone about it is so much worse. They're going to be so much more betrayed that she lied and pretended that she still had it, right? So there's a trade-off there. And once again, I feel like there's even a world where you could sell the coin for 500, then take 0 and say, listen, guys, when I saw that there was no money left, I decided that, people should have as much left as possible. MrBeast offered me, she could even say 250 if she wanted. However much money, I decided to sell the coin instead of taking more money from the pot. It was only ever a 50% chance that we were going to be able to do it anyway, double the money anyway. And I think that like people might not be like in love with that, but I think that like she can like get away with having sold it.
Right, because it is to their benefit. Like she didn't take any money. Like, so she took money for herself, but she also gave back to them basically.
Mm-hmm. And the coin is not a guaranteed double up, and no single person there feels like they're guaranteed the win at all at that point. So,
and also I think like when you're there, you're thinking like, if I get $5 million, I'm gonna be very happy with $5 million, right? You're not like you're taking $5 million away from someone who's already made $5 million. So you don't like, feel too bad for them.
At that point, I'm feeling like her choice just gave me an extra 20K in my pocket. And the people who are really to blame in this moment are the people who took 250, who are taking the brunt of this blame. So I think she can get away with that. There was one other path though, that I think she maybe has a shot with, or maybe had a shot with, which is she's taken this 500. She's pretended she didn't. And they're all like, you should sell the coin now. You should sell the coin. And at this point, I was like, the only way out of this for her to get anywhere clean out of this is that she has to pretend that at some point after taking no money, MrBeast came up to her privately and she sold the coin like everyone wanted her to.
That's what I
And
was
now
thinking
it's
too.
gone.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a separate bribe at night and he took me out, whatever. Like, just make
Yes.
up anything.
Yeah. I think that was the only way. Unfortunately for her, as we'll talk about in just a second, I think either Jim or August or both kind of messed this up for her.
Yeah.
Can't
So
get
she
away with it
tells
anymore.
Jim as she like that she finds a private moment to tell Jim. Do you want to talk through the other choices first, or do you want to?
I don't think there's much left here. Jim takes what's left for him. Katie and Hannah split the money.
What's funny to me about that though is that they dig up Katie and Hannah at the same time.
Yeah.
They are fully all in on the fact that nobody can distinguish, like, these two are not relevant to the story. Even while they were filming, they're like, whatever, we'll just dig up Katie and Hannah at the same time.
I think that's also part of why I think they fully expected there to be no money left. They were like, oh, they're just digging us all up at once now. Like, there must be no money left. And then when they got there and there was like still a good 60K left, it was like genuinely, if you're last and you were hoping for 100 and you got 60, I wouldn't be that mad, to be honest.
Yeah,
I'd be kind of like
the very last person.
It's pretty decent.
Yeah, truly. I just thought it was so funny the way they just kind of like yada yada. And Katie and Hannah, like, you're one unit, whatever.
So Monica gives this whole sob story, this whole performance about like, I went there and I just couldn't take any money from you guys, and this is phenomenal television. Like this is, I mean, this is kind of this is like Johnny Fairplay levels of just like full on acting performance. I feel like you just don't get this kind of stuff on modern reality shows nowadays.
Right. Because it's like such real stakes that like to sell it, you have to like really go deep into like your most pathological instincts.
Yeah. Like this is not like, oh, I'm a faithful guy, I promise. Oh, it really sucks that somebody died. This is like, I just took $500,000. My life has just changed.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pretend I didn't. And I'm going to pretend I didn't for like a very selfless reason. And you're all going to be so grateful to me that I did this. Nick gets in trouble. Brett gets in trouble as expected. Classic stuff as well, I think, from the both of them in terms of like the explanation. Nick explaining to Corey, I would have hated myself forever if I had not taken that money. Not taking that opportunity, after not getting the million, after not getting the island, I would have hated myself forever not getting this too. He says to the person he took that from, like, as though that man also has not experienced all of those losses.
Right. But I will say, I think Nick is right. Like, he had to take. Yeah.
I just feel like when explaining it to the person you took it from, I don't think there's any level of like,
my family,
you have to understand where I'm coming from.
Couldn't do that to my family. I could do it to your family, but not to my family.
Yeah. It's just like, look, I'm so sorry. I know what I just took from you.
Right.
And it was just the situation that I had the opportunity to do it.
I always say there's no right way to break up with somebody. Like, no matter what you say in a breakup, the person you're breaking up with is going to be mad at you. I can't believe he said it that way. He should have said it a different way. That's
there's only less bad
when you steal $250,000 from someone. There's no justification that's going to be the perfect justification.
Which is genuine. Well, I feel like you shouldn't really even try. Like just apologize. Like, just apologize. Just, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
And then they'll be like, can you believe he was apologizing? Just man up. Just own up to what you did.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then we have this. So yes, then Monica tells Jim this like secret is just like burning up inside of her. She has to tell somebody. Who better than Jim?
Scene. I will say, the second she was like, I've got something to tell you, I was like, don't tell Jim.
Yeah.
This Jim guy can't hold a secret. Are you kidding me? But
I had the same thought you did, that Jim very well might have said something or implied something to August.
Yeah. This scene was so compelling to me because they have this close up of Monica's face as she's explaining that she came away with $500,000. And I was literally, it was like I was watching a scene from a movie where like she was nominated for an Academy Award. Not in the sense that she was acting, but in the sense that I was able to see like every nuance of emotion on her face. It was so compelling to me that you could see that she was smiling, trying to signal like, this is I'm trying to say this is a good thing, but I'm hoping that you think it's the same. And I'm actually very, very fearful that you're going to reject me and be mad at me about this. But I'm trying to signal like, hey, this is maybe good. And then the relief on her face when he's like, yes, that's so good. It was, I just really enjoyed watching this scene.
Well, it's funny, and she's just so emotionally complex, and Jim's like, "Yeah, you're rich. Let's go," and then it's like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you, babe." I feel like maybe he even realized, like, just by like yelling, "Oh, you're rich," maybe made him look a little bit like a gold digger. And now, then he was like, I'm just so you just did such a good job. I'm so proud of you.
I love, how quickly he goes from like, man, she's so selfless. I knew she would take $0. That's why I love her so much. To like, whoa, she completely manipulated she's so rich though, bro. That's why I love Monica so much.
She's so rich. Yeah. But it really did. What's interesting? Like, they really do seem to care for each other. I mean, like, they seem to really appreciate. Obviously, we can understand why Jim appreciates Monica.
Mm-hmm.
And there must be good reasons why Monica appreciates Jim too.
Maybe someday we'll find it out. So throughout all of this, they are making extremely ominous cuts to August. At every corner, when she's telling him, they're cutting out to August, like on the couch. And I'm like, why do they keep cutting to August? And again, in most reality shows, this would just be misdirect. It would be like in The Traitors, when they're doing Murder in Plain Sight, it's like, oh, we're going to show somebody walking through a hallway that's next to the room. And this is really from like 15 minutes later, but we're going to act like, but this was actually foreshadowing for the eventual reveal that August knows. And so before we talk about that, there's one last thing to really mention here, which is that they are moving cities
to Riyadh, into Lamborghinis.
Into all these cars. And I was kind of out on this part. I was like, what this?
You didn't like the as paid for by the, like, Riyadh, what an amazing city, as paid for by the Riyadh Tourism Board.
Not only does that feel like a little like, what are we doing here? But it also just like kind of added some bulk to this episode that I didn't think was necessary. Especially because like they then get to the room with the phones, and then they like took the time to dump out the money and like flash back to scenes from this very episode, reminding us of like how much ever. And I was like, I just spent like 50 minutes watching this. I don't need like a 5-minute recap of how much money they have and what just happened.
And like 10 people. Yeah. That was a little bit slow. And like now they're dumping at this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was my, it's because like I was really starting to feel the length there, and I was really just like, I was ready to get into the next thing.
Yeah.
And I felt like they kept stalling. So that was a little frustrating for me. But then we got to the thing, and this was phenomenal. I don't know how they lucked into this. But the fact that it turns out August. So here's what they say. Here's what August says. He says, I've been thinking, and MrBeast always offers a bribe for the coin before the challenge. And then all of a sudden there's a gap. So my thought is that Monica took some money. And he went from that, which is like a feasible theory, to she's a scummy player. I'm going to blackmail her to get her vote. And I was like, there is way too much certainty for that train of logic, in my opinion. Like, you cannot be that certain that she definitely did this, that you're making moral judgments on her without knowing, having some kind of evidence that is more than just like, I'm pretty sure he would have given her a bribe,
I kind of, and the way that he approached it with her, where he says like, Jim basically told me, I really think that maybe like when cameras were off, Jim kind of like, hey, I think, guess what? Like a little hint was passed, but don't tell anybody. Don't even say it on camera. Some little hint was passed from Jim to August here.
And like, maybe if you want to give him as much credit as possible, you could say that he kind of suspected it based on, expecting a bribe, and then talked to Jim, and Jim inadvertently kind of confirmed it by, I noticed when Jim was in confessional before the scene where she tells Jim about having taken the 500, that Jim says, man, Corey got the worst end of this. He got the least amount of money. And I was like, oh, she's told him by now, because if she hadn't told him, he would have said Monica got the least amount of money.
Right.
And so he could have even said like, the person I feel the worst about is Corey. He got the least amount of money. And that could have been another thing that August is like, oh, interesting that you're saying that.
Right. It is possible that he truly just pieced it together without Jim saying anything. And then he's just saying Jim told me as a way to kind of put the screws.
I mean, I think
and get her to admit it.
In that world, Jim, like inadvertently maybe confirms it.
But he is really certain, and we have not seen him play this sort of like aggressive social game to this point.
I mean, if I'm being honest, my biggest fear here was that like I think either Jim told him or slipped up, or there's like some production shenanigans.
I don't think so. I feel like they're not gonna like sabotage Monica like that. I mean,
no. Because this has happened in shows before where like production essentially accidentally lets something slip,
okay.
and then it cannot be part of the story,
right.
And so August is forced to come up with some like nonsense reason for why he knows a thing. So when he said Jim told me, I was very much like, okay, good, because he was way too certain.
But that just could be a bluff, right? That just could be a bluff.
Exactly.
Like Jim basically told me as a way to like get her, like pressure her to say something. Yeah, I like the little booths with the red phones. I think it's such a cool setup. Like the way that it's like this feels like very spy movie from the 70s. Sort of.
Yeah. Jack being like, did people used to use these?
Yeah. What on earth is this box?
So I thought this was a great. I think that we talked about cliffhangers a couple episodes ago, and in my opinion, this is exactly the right kind of cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Because we are seeing something that is exciting, that feels in some ways a conclusion to what we had seen in this episode, while in many other ways is promising something very exciting and entertaining in the next episode. I'm excited to come back and watch how this plays out as August plans to blackmail Monica and theoretically Jim for their votes, and how that works. Because again, now she can't claim that she took the bribe at a later date. August will always have this holding over her head. She can vote for August to come in, and now August is guaranteed top 6. And if she ever tries to claim, anything other than I sold it when I did, he can rat her out, and he has no incentive not to, because that's now 1 or 2 people out from the top 6 that people are targeting. Yeah. This is very bad news for Monica.
Yeah. Well, but also she can just say you're wrong. I mean, although I guess then they're like, where's the coin? Show me the coin.
Right. But that's the biggest thing is she can try to defend herself by saying that's not true. But at the end of the day, she has she has anti-evidence. She has evidence against her in the fact that she doesn't have the coin.
Yeah. Well, so what do you think? So we talked about a little bit about cliffhangers, or you guys, you and Rob talked about cliffhangers previously, how you felt, you don't love the cliffhangers in the season so far. I am not as out on them as you are, because it does make me want to watch the next episode. And I agree with you guys that it kind of leads to an anticlimax. You're like, okay, so it was, JT who took the million or whatever, right? Like, oh, okay. So they eliminated, I don't even remember the girl's name. Katie.
See, that's kind of the point.
Yeah. No, for sure. But I want to know, the way they leave it, like, oh my God, they did. Well, oh my God, who pushed the buzzer? So even though the start of the next episode is weaker, it definitely propels me into wanting to watch it. But I agree with you that this is a more compelling way to do that, because you're not just promising a result, you're being promised a whole meal. It's not just
exactly
here's dessert. It's this is going to be a real substantive thing that's about to happen.
Yeah, because I think there's basically 2 methods of watching something. There's binging something where you have the next episode available to you immediately, and then there's I have to wait a week, right? And so when people are binging, you want to get them to click the next episode and not exit out of the app. And so I think both kinds of cliffhangers function pretty well for that. I need to see who they eliminated, or I need to see how he's going to blackmail this woman.
Right.
Whereas when you are watching it week to week, when it's oh, I really want to see who they eliminate. Oh, but I have to wait a week. So I'm not going to be thinking about it the whole week. It gets me to want to watch in that moment. But then by the time you get around to watching the next episode, right, you've probably even forgotten about it. It has no impact on your ability to watch the next episode.
Totally.
Whereas next week, when I start up, I'm going to be like, oh boy, here we go. He's going to blackmail Monica. So that's that. I always try to phrase it as A bad cliffhanger feels like something's being taken away from you, and a good cliffhanger feels like you're being promised something exciting.
Oh, I like that. That's really
Yeah.
good. That's really good because I do feel that now. Right. It's and I do think it's like how much. It's not just like learning what happened. It's like
Mhm.
getting to see it all play out. Like for both of
Exactly.
the other two, you're just like, okay, you're just like learning a name, like who pushed the buzzer, whose heart gets shattered. But
Mhm.
here we're gonna get to watch it all develop and see this like back and forth and how it plays out. And I think that is really exciting. And it's gonna be exciting when it happens too.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So I thought this was a very good ending to this episode. I was, and I was, there is a little bit of worry with this one where it's like, you can promise something exciting, but if the audience feels like, I've gone 2 episodes and I still haven't seen an elimination, they might still feel a little annoyed. But I do think that for the most part, I have seen a much more positive reaction to this episode, and I think that the frustration people had about the previous episode has subsided. I've even seen some people be like, you know what? Having seen both, it kind of worked. It kind
So
of
you can't
worked.
go in the comments week to week. It's like
Yeah,
people just like are there, this is the worst show in the history of TV,
exactly.
and then like, oh, but it's so good, I love it now. It's I mean, it's like week to week. It's so hard to make an informed judgment. Um, but I do think like this week, even if there was no elimination, there was a lot of like choices. There was a lot of character
Yeah.
choices. Whereas last week with the family stuff, maybe there was emotion there, but like nobody was really choosing very much.
Yeah, like last week, I think was necessary for the season in the sense that it helped create the building blocks for what was to come. And I think in an ideal world, those blocks would have been built a little more like steadily throughout the season. So I didn't need I needed like a whole chunk of one episode to do so. But I do think that like at least the show kind of delivered on the promise of why it was important to bring in those people, why it was important to spend so much time on this challenge, because it was interesting. And I do, even though this was a repeat of last time, I do just find it so compelling to watch. Like, just here's 10 people, they can share $1 million
Yeah.
if they choose to, and so far in 2 seasons they haven't been able to.
And they were all so sure. Like every
Mhm.
single person said, we're all just going to do it, you know? And the fact that it went immediately wrong was amazing. And they chose the person they thought was the most moral. And even so, I wonder, what do you think, Taran? What if they choose Monica? Is everyone just picking the 100K? Like what happens in that world where they choose Monica as the
I think Monica takes 100K. She goes to Jim. He takes 100K. I think they go to Katie and Hannah, who
100K?
seem like they would probably take 100K.
Who knows?
And then I think it just probably goes down from there. I don't think, because then it's like all that you're left with are the people. Maybe if they choose Brett in the middle, he still takes a bit more.
I don't know though, because like I think Brett comes
That's
out being
true. Yeah.
like really rattled by the fact
Yeah.
that Nick has done this. I can't believe it. I feel like if everybody in front of them had taken 100K, the pressure is really high there to not take more than 100K. I mean, especially when like
I agree.
you're really taking it out of Corey's hands or whatever. Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, had Monica been the first one, it might have been just been a much more boring episode. Like somehow it all went right.
And Monica's obviously like a pretty villainous character at this point, but I think in particular because she would have been offered the $500,000 bribe,
Right.
whether or not she takes it, I think it gives her the confidence to just be like, well, I'll take 100K.
Right.
Like I've got plenty more money on the table, right? Whether it's I take this 500 now or I take 100 from this pool and then can sell the coin later. Like she's not as desperate to take the money while she can because she has more options available to her,
Yeah.
which sort of like incentivizes her to more readily stick to the plan. And now that we have gotten to this next challenge, which is similar, very similar seemingly to what they did last season, where they're going to be voting people into the top 6 with the ability to bribe people for their vote. It really accentuates the flaw, I think, in the way that Nick operated in the game, the money situation, because as I think maybe even somebody, maybe August, like pointed out, like for an extra $150,000, he basically eliminated himself.
Right.
From
Although like
contention.
maybe, but yes, but now he also has more leverage 2.
But it's not
you're
enough.
right. Like,
I don't think it's enough. That's what I'm saying. It's
yeah.
150.
If he had taken the full million, then he could have actually bribed someone.
You need a majority of votes to go through, and you only have 150, and everyone else still got 60. Like in many ways, by giving them a decent amount left, you've bribe-proofed them, and
really
you don't have enough to offer. Whereas if you had just taken the whole thing, you could wait until like the last offering and then be like, listen, I'm going to give you each $200,000 or whatever, at which point they might genuinely be like, maybe, right?
Or like, if he had just taken the 100, he probably would have immediately still had the social credit to just
for sure.
whisked right through. So
and he's only down that he takes 100, he's down 150, but he's guaranteed top 6, right?
Yeah.
Like he had the numbers. Him and his group had the numbers to easily go top 6. So I think you can definitively say this was quite a blunder from Nick, even though he does come out with an extra 150, which is
it'll be interesting.
Nothing.
So how many people are going to be? So it's top 6. It's next episode is down to the top 6. That's fun.
Yeah. So 4 people will be left over. They will be eliminated by not having been voted through. So what's interesting about this next challenge is that like the amount of votes you need to go through lowers every time somebody goes through. So you kind of have more of a chance especially like if you're a majority group, say you have 6 of the 10, you use those 6 votes to send one person in. Now you have 5 out of 9. You use those 5 votes to send someone in. Now it's a tie. Now you don't have the majority anymore. So who gets to go in first is there's some interesting stuff with how that works.
So let's talk about who you think, like, let's make our predictions for next week. Who are the top 6? Who's going through? August, I
would have said Monica easily, right?
I think Monica's going through. I don't think Monica.
I think she still will. Because I think that, I mean, the only thing they can do is allow this to work. I think August was already in a good position to go through. So I think that with the blackmail, he will likely be able to make it through.
Yeah.
Without Monica being exposed, I think Monica goes through.
Yeah.
Corey
probably for sure. Corey,
I think is got a good. He's got a good shot, but he also doesn't have as many connect. Like
he doesn't have allies. But I think everyone's gonna feel bad for him.
Because here's the thing too. It's like, in many ways, Nick and Brett are 2 of the most important votes. Because they're probably going to be there the whole time.
Right.
And at the end of
who they like, that's a really good point.
Exactly. So at the end of the game, they're going to be 2 of the 5 votes to send the last person in.
That's really interesting.
So, Brett's going to obviously be trying to get Corey through. Nick is going to be trying to get, Jack and August and Tyler through. So I do feel like I think Hannah and Katie are going to have a tough time here.
Tyler, I think, is a likely one. If I had to pick 4 people to not be there, I would say Katie, Hannah, Nick, and Brett are going to be the ones who don't make it.
I think those are the obvious picks. There might be some like trickery.
Do you think they eliminate Katie and Hannah at one point? They're like, okay, you two you're just out. You're not relevant to this anymore. Just like
I think they're just gonna be left behind because like their only real allies are Monica and Jim. And I think Monica's leaving early. I don't think she's gonna be sticking around voting a lot.
Is there any world where Nick is able to bribe his way out of this?
I mean, there is a world, right? He could easily team up with Brett and be like, we'll vote for each other. And actually, I don't remember if you can vote. I'm assuming you can't vote for yourself, actually, not thinking about it. But because then everyone will just always vote for themselves. But we'll vote for each other. And then at that point, he only needs 1 more vote to tie, right? If there's 4 votes total out of the top 5 that you can't vote for yourself. Right? Because he'd be 1 vote not voting that way. So then he can just bribe 1 person, make it a tie. I don't know how the tiebreaker works. Maybe it's the outside people, which would be bad.
Right.
But it's feasible. It's not super likely, but it's definitely possible with some money.
Like Brett, I'll give you $50,000, and Katie, I'll give you $50,000. You guys aren't making it out of here. No vote for me.
We saw the guy who flipped the coin last season, like
JC?
pull off some. No.
I'm sorry. JC the coin this season. I remember
the coin flipper. I don't remember his name. I believe it was him that like pulled off some trickery in the vote where like he was able to, he kind of like pulled a little bit of a Suri where he like wasted some votes here or there and then got like a small plurality to make it through. So like, you know, there's some things you can do.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting.
I'm excited. I feel like this was a very good episode last season, the voting stuff, and I thought I did enjoy this one. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens with the blackmail and with the votes and with this final group of people, where I now have like a much better sense of who they are and like rooting interests and what a move by Monica. I'm compelled, Stephen.
Yeah. So I think last week you and Rob did a snake draft for the winner. You picked Monica first, is that right?
I believe I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And then I think like
I'm concerned
Tyler
now.
after that. I mean, he picked like Jim after that, right? Like that was.
I believe he picked Tyler and Jim.
Tyler and Jim, right? Yes. Tyler's got a lot of heat. I gotta say, I think Tyler's got it in a good spot too. We're seeing a lot of August. Yeah, I mean, Monica, Tyler, August are probably my top 3 right now. I mean, Nick definitely would have been in there, but no more.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think you can kind of nix Brett from the options. I think, like, honestly, even Corey, I feel like just hasn't been present enough for him to like come out of as a winner all of a sudden. I think you can cut out Katie and Hannah pretty easily, and just there, you've chopped 4 people. You know, Nick not looking great.
Nick win would be very. I would love a Nick win, like some
it would be very
crazy
fun.
comeback. Yeah, he's been one of my favorites all season long. Great character. I hope they bring him back for season 2 or season 3, you know, if they bring people back. Yeah.
All right. Who's your top pick then? Give me one.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Monica right now as the top.
She's gonna be exposed, surely, though, at the final 6.
Right. Monica or maybe Tyler.
So you're kind of on board with the top 2 picks.
Yeah, I mean, August too is like, you know, we just see him coming out so hard here. What about you?
I'm much lower on Monica now.
Yeah.
You know, obviously August is having this moment, but like this is a moment for August, right? So it's hard to know if that really
means you need the moments going right into the end. You know, you need that momentum going right into the
true.
Final. But it does change week to week so much. I mean, like literally an episode ago, Nick seemed to be, you know, in the power position, and now
I think I'll stick with Monica. I think she will be exposed, but if she manages to get there with Jim anyway, it's 2 of 6. And what we saw last time was that you could target people, but not super easily. So I think they still and she's just very talented at a lot of these skill games, which I think the final few games are likely to be.
Is there a world where the final 2 are Jim and Monica, and Jim takes a dive for Monica?
That would be Jim takes.
That's been his narrative, right? Like Jim keeps saying, "I'm gonna like take a dive for Monica."
I mean, there's kind of no point at that point. Like,
right.
I think Jim taking a dive so she can make it to the top 2 at the final 3 makes more sense than like we both made it here. Like, why bother taking a dive? One of us should just win.
Right. Yeah. But for love, what about for love?
Listen,
maybe she's
if
got a
the
better
love
accountant.
Is true, it doesn't matter who wins. They're sharing the money anyway.
She's in like a different state than he is. Maybe, you know, lower income tax, whatever, lower city taxes. Maybe he lives in New York City.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad point. that's a lot of trust, Stephen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a fun episode, fun chat here, Stephen. Anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, this is great. Yeah. Where can people find your book?
TaranArmstrong.com. Find it there. StephenFishbach.com for Escape.
Yep. Okay.
There you go.
All right. This was a pleasure, Taran. Talk to you next week.
As always. And we'll be back next week for episode 9.
Wow.
See all of you then.
Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.